So in this problem, we're still using substitutions to get equations into quadratic form, but in this case, it might not be as obvious what exactly is it that we need to substitute. We need to recognize what is x to the 2/3, what is being squared. We have x to the 1/3 as our middle term, so x to the 2/3 equals x to the 1/3 squared. So we'll just substitute u equals x to the 1/3. And that's typically how it'll work if we can use the substitution. It'll be whatever the exponent is on the middle term that we're going to substitute if they're rational exponents. So we'll make the substitution. U squared minus 5u minus 14 equals 0. And then we look at, will it factor? Are there any two numbers that multiply to negative 14 that add to negative 5? Well, 7 times 2 equals 14, and if the 7 is negative, negative 7 plus 2 is negative 5. So this will factor to u minus 7 times u plus 2 equals 0. And again, that's 2 times negative 7 is negative 14. Negative 7 plus 2 equals negative 5. So u equals negative 2. Or u equals 7. So now we'll back substitute x to the 1/3 equals negative 2, or x to the 1/3 equals 7. So if we cube both sides of these equations, x to the 1/3 cubed is just x, and negative 2 cubed is negative 8. Or with the other equation, x to the 1/3 cubed, again, is x, and 7 cubed equals 343. 7 times 7 is 49, times 7 is 343. As always, we will check our solutions by substituting back into the original equations. In this case, we have x to the 2/3 minus 5, x to the 1/3 minus 14 equals 0. So we can check that solution. First, with x equals negative 8, is negative 8 to the 2/3 minus 5 times negative 8 to the 1/3 minus 14. Does that equal 0? Well, what is negative 8 to the 2/3? That's negative 8 squared, which is 64, and then the cube root of 64, which is going to be 4. We could go about that several ways. You could take the cube root of negative 8, which is negative 2, and then square it, and you're still going to get 4. So either way, the first term ends up being just 4. And then negative 8 to the 1/3, that's a cube root of negative 8. So that's negative 2. And that's still times 5 minus 14. Does that equal 0? Well, 4 plus 10 minus 14, that's 14 minus 14, which does equal 0. So that solution checks. Now what about x equals 343? We substitute that back into the original equation. So remember, 343 equals 7 cubed. So 343 to the 2/3 minus 5 times 343 to the 1/3 minus 14. Does that equal 0? So 343 to the 2/3, well, the cube root of 343, again, that's 7. And then 7 squared is 49. minus 5 times the cube root of 343 is, again, 7. Minus 14, does that equal 0? So 49 minus 35 minus 14, does that equal 0? So 49 minus 35, that's 14, minus 14, does indeed equal 0. So both of our solutions check, and we can say that x equals -8 or x equals 343. So again, when we're looking at rational exponents with a trinomial, we're going to want to look at that middle term, and that's where we're going to make the substitution.